Welcome back. As NBS Live at 9 continues, new findings on the state of elderly persons show that many risk dying before their time on account of increasing discrimination in poor health care. Speaking at the Boomers event organized by Nerves and Bones Rehabilitation Center founder Dr. Ruth Balemezi noted that many elderly persons are dying quite early, but adds that this can be prevented.
Uganda has over 1.3 million older persons across the country who are above 60 years. Unfortunately, many of these are dying earlier than expected because their illnesses are not catered for by some medics and health facilities that have no capacity to administer older persons. According to Ruth Balemezi, the founder Nerves and Bones Rehabilitation Center for Old Persons, few entities are dedicating services to older persons, a situation that is worsened by the fewer numbers of doctors specializing in caring for the old, as well as facilities for the aged.
Quite few. But we believe that with time, I know just like 3, but we believe that with time, physicians are covering the gap. But I know that with time, we shall be able to bridge them. And without that, the physicians on the side would also want to acknowledge them being their primary doctors. We want to keep them with skills so that they can handle their health on their own, not necessarily running to the hospitals to seek medical attention.
Balemezi notes that because of stigma and lack of knowledge to care for the elderly families, some hospitals have abandoned them.
But they do suffer the pill burden. They take a lot of pills. You find one with so many chronic diseases. Yet, through wellness clubs like this, they can prevent certain diseases, thereby reducing the pill burden and reducing the visits they have to make to hospital.
The elderly who convened in Ntinda today for a health awareness drive and lessons revealed that it is about time government invested in elderly homes.
Grow up, most of our children leave us, say you're educated, they go to work, and you find you are remaining alone at home. So maybe in the white community, they normally take such a people to elderly homes to be cared for. But here in Uganda, I don't know whether we have such homes.
According to the latest State of Uganda's population report, the country has the world's youngest population, with more than 78% below 30 years. Out of the over 1.3 million elderly persons, nearly 1 in 10 people in Uganda is above 60 years. The population is projected to grow in the next 3 decades. Sarah Namuli, NBS, Live at 9.
Now, while Uganda has the world's youngest population, the population of senior citizens is slowly increasing. Sadly, the state of affairs among our senior citizens leaves a lot to be desired. And for this conversation, I'm joined by the founder of Nerves and Bones Rehabilitation Center, Dr. Ruth Balemezi. This is Weekend Live Chat. Good evening, Dr. Ruth.
Good evening, Shannon.
It's a pleasure to have you join me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, my first question is, what will it take for us as a nation to offer better health care, social services and facilities to our senior citizens?
Attitude. I think it's attitude. Once we develop a positive attitude, we shall be able to change a lot. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference.
Is it likely that we have not planned for our senior citizens because we have a very young population, so no one is thinking that far?
Very good. I think it's right, and they are neglected. Look at our families. Most of them are abandoned in their homes, and there's a lot of stigma surrounding them. They are rejected, and they've been blamed for the illnesses that come up. So it's an attitude problem.
What do you mean they're blamed for the illnesses that come up? The illnesses that they have to suffer on account of old age?
If you look at so many people, or if you have had maybe a grandparent walk around with them and you go into a doctor, they normally say, oh yeah, it's age. Yet we advocate for graceful aging. It's true, we age and degeneration occurs, but we can age gracefully.
I hope when my time comes, I actually age gracefully. Speaking of doctors, one of the issues that came up in the report that we ran earlier is the fact that we have challenges in finding specialist care for the elderly. It's not readily available, and I find it rather odd.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say that as a doctor yourself?
Wow, they are quite there. The physicians are really a number and they're covering the gap. However, I know of very few geriatric specialists who really have mastered the art and science of taking care of the elderly people.
Why do you think this is the case? Why are there not many people venturing into that area of speciality?
I think because of our culture. Our culture does not so much care about the aging people. Yes, we do not abandon them, like taking them to homes. We still care for them, but they are regarded like they shouldn't take in a lot of effort. They're not given that effort.
What, because they're going to die?
Somehow like that. That's why I blame it to attitude and our culture. And all that.
Now, if we look at the life of a senior citizen, a lot is changing with our family structures. A lot is changing. Is there an opportunity, as far as you're concerned, for private players to set up home care facilities? And are we even ready for this as a country, as a community, as a people?
Wow, home care facilities, our culture does not take it in so well. The fact that we are so clinged to our people, it's hard for you to throw away your mother to a home care facility.
But we're hardly there, Dr.
Yes,
Ruth. We're not there.
True.
We're in many of us are not in the villages where our parents are or grandparents are. So technically they are on their own.
So what I would really encourage is that we create peer support groups among them, because they also want this sense of well-being and independence. So taking them to a home feels like abandoning, so far as we are in Uganda. It's like they're neglected. However, if we give them peer support groups within their peers, their age mates, like we are trying to do among churches, religious bodies, mosques, where they understand each other and then we integrate health among them, I think it is more successful than just the home. Although home visits are quite good because there are some who cannot afford to keep coming to the facility, but through still their peer support groups. In the other side of health sector, what we call the VHTs or village health teams, in that way, would get a peer support, and among them, they would choose one to represent them at such a level.
And how do we ensure that these people, let's say the village health teams, the people who are part of these teams have a good attitude? Because the last thing you want is someone who is supposed to be making your life a lot better, feeling like it's such a burden on them as well. Because our senior citizens are very sensitive.
True.
They're very sensitive people.
True. So now what we do in that case, that's why such an event took place. We trained them. We had people coming all the way from Luka district, from Soroti, from Gulu, from all over, and there we get peer leaders. Not all the aging people are represented, but their peer leaders came along. And while they go back, they teach them on how to enhance health and create well-being among them. So once we train them and equip them with basic skills on how to take care of themselves, they can handle it well with independence, because they also love that aspect of independence among them.
Okay, you've talked about a little bit about what today's activity was about, but what are some of the other things that organizations like yours are doing in the context of elderly persons?
Now we have the urban elderly and then the rural elderly. The urban elderly actually suffer a lot of loneliness. You may wonder how. They educate their children, take them out of the country, like you said, you're in Kampala, and maybe they're just there suffering. So their main thing is loneliness, and they need to come up together and support one another. Yet the rural elderly suffer from poverty. They do not have a shilling. So when we bridge them, we're able to internalize them and then see how to cover the different gaps and needs that they have.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ruth Balemeza. And of course, thank you for sharing your insights on how we can make the lives of our senior citizens, and who are actually our relatives, a lot more comfortable as they approach the evening of their lives. That was Weekend Live Chat.